Hi, Candice Betty here with Organic Radiant Skincare. Today I'd like to discuss why we age, and specifically I will be discussing which is more important, genes or the environment. And this is based on a section of my most recent blog article, Anti-Aging Science, How to Slow the Aging Process. So I will put a link to that in the description below. And this is on the genes versus the environment section. So let's go ahead and get started. Well, there's really two theories about aging. The first is the genes theory, and this is that our DNA or our genes, our chromosomes, are controlling how fast we age. There are certain genes, specific genes here, that control a lot of other genes involved in our survival and our basic metabolism. And these genes are, when they're knocked out, they can either increase or decrease significantly our longevity. So this is telling us that there are specific genes that control a whole host of secondary genes that are very important in our longevity and how we age. So this is accountable, this gene theory, current thinking, thinks about 25% of the entire aging process is controlled by these genes. And these genes are controlling things like basic metabolism and maintenance of the cell. So energy production and then just regular cellular maintenance, getting rid of the old stuff and bringing in nutrients. So that is about a quarter of what we're talking about here. And then there's the other school of thought, which is the environment thought. And this is not just about the environment as in the earth or the city that we live in and things that we come into contact with. We're also talking about things in our home and our diet, such as what we're using to clean our carpets, what we're drinking, red wine, my favorite, as well as healthy habits that we're supposed to be doing, applying SPF, sun protection every day. Even our deodorants, whether you're using an antiperspirant or a regular deodorant, even things that we're using to get ready to be on video or just to look nice and feel nice, like your CC cream or foundations. So all of these things are having an effect on how you are aging. Some of them are neutral, some of them are negative, and some of them are positive. So we're going to discuss a little bit about this wear and tear theory, which is basically your cells are always going through damage, whether it is basic cellular respiration, which means, okay, I breathe in, my cells are getting oxygen, I'm producing energy, and this is how mammals function and continue their, trying to think of the word here. This is how we produce energy, and this is basically our metabolism. So these chemical reactions lead to damage. We're breathing in oxygen, and oxygen is a very reactive chemical. So when we breathe in oxygen and we produce energy with it, this creates reactive oxygen species. So that's a fancy term for something you've probably heard of, which is a free radical. Now, free radicals are just oxygens that are kind of energized, and they can do damage to your body and your cells. So when we have this process, which is normal, going on, we get an accumulation of small amounts of damage in the cells and in the body. And the wear and tear theory of aging says that when these small amounts of damages add up to a critical level, it starts affecting our systems and how well they're functioning. So basically, once there's so much damage to my DNA and my skin, my collagen, it is starting to make my skin not so firm. It's starting to give me age spots, things like this. And this accumulates over time, and we see that starting in our late 20s, as we move through our 30s and into our 40s and 50s and beyond. We can see it's an accumulation, and these are slow changes which happen over decades. So let's see, another thing in our environment which is very, very critical is our diet. Now, I am a red wine lover, and I already showed you one of my wines, but wine is, and alcohol on the whole, is something that promotes inflammation. And I'm so sorry to say it, but inflammation, chronic inflammation rather, is something that is very closely tied to premature aging. So inflammation and how it is tied to aging is still a science which is in its infancy. And it is a very complex process that involves a whole lot of different processes in the body. But we do see these things very, very closely related. So in the rest of my article, I go into tips on how to reduce both aging and inflammation. So if we're reducing one, we're also reducing the other. And this is a real take-home point that I want to make from this article, is that our whole habits and diet should be centered around reducing inflammation if we're at all concerned about reducing inflammation. Excuse me, if we're at all concerned about premature aging and we're using anti-aging night creams, we really have to take into account the whole picture and make sure that our habits and our diet are reducing our inflammation. So, which one is more important? I already told you 25% is due to genes, and there are certain genes that are responsible for the majority of the high-level processes. And then I told you, well, the remaining 75% is really your environment. But it's not just a one-to-one, like one part genes and 3 parts your environment. It's really about how your genes are interacting with your environment. So if I am prone to rosacea, which I am, my red wine over there is going to interact with my genetic background and produce more inflammation. Unfortunately, for my sake, it's going to produce more inflammation and more aging than someone of a different genetic background. So it's not a linear process. It's really how we're interacting with our genes and our background genetically that is determining aging, which is such an individual process. So in the next video, I'm going to discuss how aging affects our skin and a little bit of the scientific processes behind the scenes that are going on that are affecting our skin. So stay tuned for that, and be sure to click subscribe down below. And if you're interested in reading the whole article, I go into depth on anti-aging science and how to slow the aging process. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.